When you're out on the water, even the simplest things can turn into a bit of a circus. It's not something you think about until you're actually doing it, like trying to pour boiling water while the boat's bouncing, or figuring out where to stash the trash until you hit land again. Sailing's full of magic, sure, but it also turns everyday tasks into little puzzles you've got to solve with some creativity and a bit of humor. So, in this one, I'm counting down 10 totally normal things that get way harder once you're out at sea or swinging on the hook. Whether you're weekend cruising or out for a longer passage, you'll probably recognize a few of these. Let's get into it. You'd think doing the dishes would be the least of your worries out here, but nope. Washing up on a boat is a whole different beast. First off, you've got limited water, especially if you're not hooked up to shore. So, every drop counts. You end up developing this whole rhythm. Scrape everything clean, wash the light stuff first, reuse soapy water where you can, rinse quick. It's practically a dance. Then there's the movement. Even on a calm day, the boat's always shifting a bit. Plates slide, cups tip over, and don't even get me started on knives. I've learned to wedge myself in just right and keep one hand free to grab something if it starts to roll. And the sink, tiny. Half the time, I'm washing stuff in shifts, playing Jenga with wet dishes just to get them all done. If you've got saltwater plumbing, you might wash with seawater first, then do a quick rinse with fresh, just to stretch your supply. It's not glamorous, but it's weirdly satisfying once you get the hang of it. Out here, even the dishes turn into part of the adventure. Taking a shower on the boat is one of those things that sounds simple until you actually try it. Space is the first hurdle. There's barely room to turn around, let alone stretch your arms. And then there's the water situation. If you're at anchor or underway, every drop of fresh water is precious. That means quick, military-style showers, get wet, shut off the water, soap up, rinse fast, and you're done. On some days, the water heater's working and the ride is smooth, so it's not too bad. Other days, you're hanging on with one hand and trying not to bang your elbow while the boat rocks. If you're out of fresh water, or saving it, it's saltwater bucket showers on deck, followed by a quick rinse. Chilly? Absolutely, but it does the trick. You get used to it after a while, and honestly it makes you appreciate clean hair and warm water in a whole new way. Showering out here isn't about luxury, it's just about staying clean and not slipping overboard while you do it. Still, nothing beats a marina shower now and then, with endless hot water and room to breathe. Making coffee on a boat should be easy, right? You'd think so, but between the motion, the small space, and whatever the weather's doing, it's usually a bit of a mission. I use a simple pour-over setup most days. It doesn't take much gear and it gives me a good cup, which is all that matters when I'm half awake and the world's already moving around me. But let me tell you, boiling water on a gimbaled stove while the boat is rolling? That takes patience. I've had the kettle slide off more times than I care to admit, until I finally tied it down. Then there's the beans. If I'm feeling fancy, I'll grind them fresh, but that adds another layer of chaos if I'm underway. When I'm anchored and the sun's just coming up though, there's nothing better than the smell of fresh coffee wafting out over the cockpit. It's one of those small comforts that makes a big difference out here. Even if I've spilled grounds everywhere or splashed hot water across the counter, that first sip, hot, strong, and earned, makes it all worth it. Ah yes, the head, what we sailors call the toilet. It's not exactly a topic folks like to bring up, but it's one of the most important bits of boat life to figure out. First off, using it is a two-step process. There's the business part, and then there's the pumping. If you forget to pump enough, or worse, forget to open the seacock, you're in for a smelly surprise. Manual heads have this love-hate relationship with everyone aboard. You have to pump a handle to flush, and there's a fine art to how many times you pump for liquid versus solid business. Too little, and it clogs. Too much, and you waste water or fill the tank too fast. Electric heads are a bit easier, but they still come with their own quirks and a healthy respect for what not to flush. And guests? Oh, explaining how to use the head without turning it into a full-blown lecture is a skill. Most folks mess it up at least once. It's awkward, sometimes messy, and definitely humbling. But when nature calls, you make it work, and it just becomes part of the routine, oddball, pump handle, and all. Grocery shopping becomes an actual expedition when you're on a boat. It starts with timing, planning it around weather, tides, dinghy rides, and whether the closest store is even open. You don't just hop in a car and drive down the road. More often than not, you load up your backpack, hop into the dinghy, bounce your way ashore, and then lug everything back through town like a sweaty, slightly damp pack mule. And then there's the shopping itself. You've got to think about what keeps well without refrigeration, how to stretch your meals, and how to fit it all into a tiny fridge or dry storage without crushing the eggs. Fresh produce is gold. Canned goods are staples. Anything breakable has to be wrapped up or stowed somewhere safe so it doesn't shatter the first time you hit a wave. By the time you're back at the boat, unloading bags, ferrying things from dinghy to deck, and stashing them in every spare cubbyhole, it feels like a full workout. It's not glamorous, but there's something satisfying about provisioning well and knowing you've got enough to eat for the next stretch of sea. Laundry on a boat is rarely convenient and almost never quick. There's no washer tucked away in the corner, unless you're one of the lucky few. Most of us either wash clothes by hand in a bucket or haul bags to a marina or laundromat when we reach shore. The hand wash method is good for basics: socks, t-shirts, undies. But anything bigger becomes a half-day chore. You soap it up, scrub it, rinse it, then figure out where to hang it. Lines stretched across the cockpit, clothes flapping in the wind, dodging rain squalls. It's a whole process. And when you're on passage or at anchor for days, you start getting creative with how long you can stretch a clean shirt. Sometimes you strike gold and find a marina with machines. But even then, you're waiting in line with everyone else who's been at sea for a week. It's not the worst thing, but it's not exactly fun either. Still, nothing beats slipping into freshly washed clothes after days in the salt and sweat. It's a small victory, but a sweet one. Sleeping on a boat sounds like a dream. Waves rocking you gently, stars above, peace all around. And yeah, sometimes it really is, but other times, not so much. If the anchorage is a bit rolly or the wind picks up at 2 in the morning, you're wide awake, checking the anchor, listening to every creak and groan. Even in calm conditions, sleep isn't always easy. You're in a narrow bunk with walls on both sides, and every movement of the boat is felt through your mattress. If it's hot, you're sweating. If it's cold, you're layered up and buried in blankets. Then there's the ever-present concern. Is the anchor holding? Is the tide shifting? Is that noise normal? And let's not forget the occasional anchor alarm screaming in the dead of night just to give your heart a jolt. But when the conditions line up, quiet water, gentle breeze, and just the right amount of sway, there's no better place to drift off. It's not always a restful 8 hours, but out here, even a few solid hours feel like gold. Trash on a boat is one of those little things that becomes a major logistical puzzle. You can't just toss it in a bin and wheel it to the curb. Everything has to be packed up, stored, and eventually carried to shore. So you start managing waste like a pro, flattening everything, sorting recyclables when you can, and sealing up anything that might smell. On long stretches between stops, you become hyper-aware of what you bring aboard. Cans, good; plastic, bad. Anything that stinks goes overboard only if it's completely biodegradable, and even then, carefully. Trash builds up fast, and space is tight, so you learn to stash it smartly, usually in a lazarette or locker that already smells faintly of old rope and diesel. Then, when you finally hit a port or find a dockside bin, it's like a little celebration. You load up the dinghy with bags and try not to look too ridiculous as you paddle your floating dumpster to shore. It's not glamorous, but like a lot of things on a boat, it becomes routine and strangely satisfying once it's done. Keeping a boat clean and organized isn't just about neatness, it's about survival. When you've only got a few feet of living space and everything moves with the waves, clutter becomes chaos real quick. A single misplaced item can turn into a projectile the minute the boat heels or a gust hits. So you get into the habit of stowing things properly. Everything has a home, and if it doesn't, you make one. Cleaning becomes a daily task, wiping down salt spray, sweeping up sand, battling mold in damp corners. You stay on top of it, or it gets on top of you. Then there's the constant shuffle of supplies, rotating food so nothing goes bad, digging through lockers to find that one can of beans, trying to remember where you put the spare headlamp. It's a juggling act, and even when everything's clean, it's rarely tidy by house standards. But out here, clean and organized just means nothing smells bad, and you can find your stuff when you need it. That's a win. Cooking a full meal on the boat is a mix of patience, balance, and creativity. The galley's small, maybe just a 2-burner stove, a tiny counter, and a fridge that requires yoga moves to reach the bottom of. But when you're craving a real, hot, proper dinner, you make it happen. The challenge starts with space. You've got to chop, mix, cook, and clean, all in an area the size of a broom closet. Then there's the motion. Even at anchor, the boat's usually moving a bit. Pots slide, spoons clatter, and every now and then something ends up on the floor. You learn to wedge yourself in, use bowls that don't tip, and keep one hand on the counter while stirring. Ingredients can be limited too, especially if you're between supply runs. So you get creative, substituting, combining, stretching what you've got. But when it all comes together, a hot curry, a steaming bowl of pasta, grilled fish fresh from the ocean, it feels like a feast. Sure, you might be sweating, everything might be a little salty, and cleanup will be another adventure, but that first bite makes it all worth it. So yeah, everyday stuff gets a little more complicated when you're doing it on a boat. It's not always pretty, and it's definitely not always easy, but that's part of the charm. You learn to slow down, to adapt, to laugh at the little messes and mishaps that come with the territory. And over time, what used to feel like a hassle just becomes part of the rhythm. Some days the boat feels like the world's smallest, most awkward apartment. Other days, it's a floating slice of freedom. Either way, the daily grind has a way of reminding you just how different and how special life out here really is. Thanks for tagging along today. If any of those tasks hit close to home, or if you've got your own "why is this so hard on a boat" story, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Until next time, fair winds, following seas, and don't forget to double check your anchor before bed.